This is the internet court of truth and lies. What it's for is if you have something in the media that you think is the truth or you think it's a lie, but you're curious what other people think, it creates an environment where there's a set of 8 verdict questions where you can dissect the truth or lie. There are up to 8 jurors that get brought in to listen to your pleading and get their opinions. What happens just virtually every time is somebody, at least one, but often several people, tell you things that you didn't think about when you were deciding something was true or deciding something was a lie. For plaintiffs who are trying to convince people of certain things and they're wondering why they can't seem to convince them. Today, we've got a case based on a Medium article that I wrote that says that here's a proof that every sentence can be a lie. It's also a proof that every sentence can be a truth. The picture I had here, which I thought was very appropriate, was Howdy Doody, which is a puppet, which you know is a lie. It's not a real boy, looking at himself in the mirror, and the mirror is either telling the truth or telling a lie too. That's the nature of this proof, pointing out that the way brains compute and the way natural language is structured, the two things match up. Any sentence can be the truth and any sentence can be a lie, given the right predication context. We'll talk more about this, but here the proof is, I believe, correct. If somebody can point out why it is formally incorrect, I would love to know. I think it is formally correct, but it does make some assumptions, which it tells you to make, but you may not understand that it's told you to do this, make these assumptions. What it says is we can prove that every sentence can be a lie by considering the sentence itself and providing a verbal context for its interpretation. In other words, you can take any sentence and provide a verbal context for its interpretation and change that sentence from a truth to a lie or a lie to a truth. You can always do that. There are no exceptions. What I took was a sentence which arguably is either true or false, which says that every sentence can be a lie. I argue that is true. And the way I prove it's true is without changing the sentence, I can predicate it, declaring it is not true. So it's not true that every sentence can be a lie. Now, what's critical is in understanding this is 2 things. One thing is that both compound sentence 2, you can understand. But it's also true that you understand the target sentence, which is 1, every sentence can be a lie, in a different way in order to understand sentence 2. In other words, the way in which your brain is taking every sentence can be a lie is different in those 2 cases. And the predication context is causing it to be different. What's important about this is that neural computation and natural language works this way. So I can create a language where, for example, every sentence it tells is the truth. A simple example of that would be a language that just says 2 words, lights on, lights off. That just has an eye that looks at a light. And so everything is referential. The lights on, this little critter that only can only say lights on or lights off, can only tell the truth, and it cannot predicate outside of its knowledge, which is whether the light's on or off. It has no imagination. So I define a language, and I can take that out and extend it and show that what's going on here is there's two types of meaning of a sentence. One is referential meaning and one is semantic meaning. And the trick that's being played here in order to prove the case is I'm changing typically the referential meaning of the target sentence. So every sentence could be a lie. That means every sentence that anybody can ever speak or read or say could be a lie. There is no sentence that a human can say that can be understood. It can be said, okay, that's grammatically correct and semantically, makes sense. It can be understood as a truth or a lie. And I merely have to put it into, again, a grammatically and semantically correct possible predication. And I will change the reference, what every sentence can be a lie refers to. And by changing the reference, by predicating it in order to change the reference, I can make that second one true too. So I can make both 1 and 2 true, or I can make 1 and 2 a lie as well, which is I can say it's not true that every sentence can be a lie. So that's the proof. Yeah.
To me, sentence 3 sounds like it's equal to sentence 1.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's equal to it, but it is changing the context. It is equal to it. No, be careful. It is equal to it this time. There may be a different reference structure where it makes sense to say it's not true that every sentence can be a lie. It's not true that every sentence can be a lie is not true. There's some sentences cannot be a lie. If the reference is tight enough, then the sentence, you may not be able to put it in a predication context without the human mind changing the reference. So if I say, I'm not a dog, then I could say, I'm not a dog, and that's true in one. It's not true that I'm not a dog, but I've changed the meaning of dog. It really changed me, but I changed dog. And then I'm not a dog. Could be a lie. It's not true that I'm not a dog. That changes the reference again, and it's not necessarily the same reference. Just saying. That would be more in what a comedian would say. What I'm arguing is you can continue that. There was another structural linguist named Noam Chomsky that argued that this recursion can go on forever in principle, even though your brain may not be able to follow it.
But,
the semantic
Robert, isn't it just the case that by adding context after context, all you're doing is the next context simply refers to the nested context, not to the original. You're not actually changing the meaning of
the sentence is the same.
At all.
The the same.
No, I beg to differ, because when you talk about all
if
sentence,
you define the
it's not
sentence
true
as the
that all
words,
sentences can be a lie. It
yeah,
means
if you define
some sentences can be a lie.
No, the argument is that when you're defining sentences as a string of words, then I believe the proof is there. If you are defining a sentence as whatever happens inside your head, then this only indicates that it's possible. The proof is find me an exception. I know of no exception. This is where I go with this.
So
Yeah.
So are you saying the predicates created in the brain cannot involve partial truths of any kind? They have to be direct, complete sentences about complete objects, like they can't use
No, a
the word some
predication. No,
as the
I
subject.
start with there's this. You start with a sentence, and so the predication is on a sentence. The predication could be on, for example, just one participant in the sentence. In other words, it doesn't have to be the whole sentence. You can predicate any part of a sentence. A sentence typically has many predications in it once you break it down. A regular sentence people speak. The answer is that you can predicate it, you can give it a further predication, and you will change typically the understood reference, what I mean by truth, or what I mean by the expression that every sentence can be the truth or a lie.
Sorry, yeah, just to clarify what it is I'm trying to say. When you say it's not true that every sentence can be the truth, that first, it's not true, is referring only to the second, it's not true. It's not referring to about every sentence.
But the sentence,
so
the second,
nothing has changed. You haven't proved anything.
No, you have, because because the original sentence is still there. That every sentence can be the truth.
Yes, it's still there, but it's not proved, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's what I just said. It's understood, yeah. and it's believed. If you believe that it's not, if the first is not true is true, then you believe that. But to get the meaning out of the rest, there will be yet another interpretation of the original target sentence, which is what you just said.
Okay. Yeah.
No problem. And this is fundamental. The argument is this is fundamental to neural computation. It's the reason that humans like fiction. It's completely imagined, but they know it's fiction, but they treat it as if it's reality. Their brain is treating it, it's got to be credible in some imagined the way that the brain can imagine it, and it comes from the same property that leads you to the conclusion that every sentence can be a lie and every sentence can be the truth. That's my argument. Notice I did QED at the bottom. To those who, everybody knows what QED is. I can't do the quo thing.
Quadratum, stratum.
Yeah, I knew you could do it.
Yeah.
In Maxwellian terms, so Maxwell argued what's a law and what's a doctrine or principle. This is in one of his early books called Matter and Motion. This counts, I think, as a doctrine or principle, really a principle. It's not a law. I don't know how you make it a law, but you could prove it propositionally, I believe. But it does change the propositions that underlie or are presupposed by the target sentence that's being changed. In other words, the words are the same, but essentially the meaning is different, and the meaning can shift both semantically, but most all the time it'll change referentially. What the sentence is pointing at that you determine makes it true, or that you determine makes it a lie. Just so y'all get this is even crazier, if the proof is accepted, then it could be a law, but it's not one right now. This is not an accepted proof that I know of, but it appears to be real. So his argument was that the conservation of energy is not a law, it's a principle. And in physics, we've now recognized that. We've recognized that as the universe expands, new energy is created out of nothing. That's modern physics, which for 200 years thought that that energy was always conserved. And now they're saying it's not a law. It's a principle that holds in almost all circumstances, but not some. let's see, the fundamental cognitive neural is the predications exhibited in natural language. Then I go through this stuff, but that's basically my argument. What I'm going to do is asking each juror to 30 or 40-second summary of their verdicts. And I can't wait to hear what y'all say. No idea what you're going to say. Juror one.
That's me. I agree with everything. The way, and if you explained it, lecture, I understood it better, but logically thinking, I was thinking it depends on how the person brain does compute it, depending on their experience and their education level. You know what I'm saying? Because you use reasoning, like I'm more of a layman, so I use reasoning and try to dissect the sentence and stuff like that. But I think everyone's brain is different in how they compute a sentence.
Yeah, the argument that I'd be making is that everybody has different memories. No two people have the same memories, experiences. But it's a property of natural language that it is representing the capability of you always being able to see how something that can be understood as the truth can also be understood as a lie, or how something that is a lie can always be understood as the truth. This comes an evolutionary imperative on how neurons compute. So from a computational point of view, this is an important attribute of any computation that somebody has. Juror two.
Oh, yeah, I think that's me. Yeah, I struggle with this, as you could probably guess. I didn't quite follow this nested series of statements didn't make a lot of sense to me, but I just resorted to logic. So when you say it's not true that every sentence can be a lie, what you're saying is it is true that some sentences can be a lie. So when you then add, it is not true that some sentences can be a lie, what you're saying is that some sentence, either all sentences can be lies or none. It can't be none sentences can be lies. So that proved it to me happily that way. But I'm not quite sure I understood your
So
your
mine is
description
that
of it.
every sentence can be a lie. Yeah, mine is. So I jumped off the cliff, Andrew. Sorry.
And you're still falling, I think.
I'm still falling. I haven't hit the ground yet. I still believe what I'm saying, but I realize that there are people who say they never lie. And there are people who say with absolute certainty, they hear a story and they think that somebody lied and you don't have the full context for it, the predication context for it. And it turns out it's the truth. But it's a property of how our brains evolved to keep us alive in a world of deceit.
Yeah.
It always has us spotting or figuring out how something that we think is true can also be not true. So we're ready for it. If we get a hint that it's not true, we will immediately say, yeah, that's not true. Okay, juror three.
That's me. This was one of those trials that I can piggyback off of Andrew and a couple of others here. But what you just said about when people say they don't ever lie, I have a tendency to say that at times, but I don't know if it's from the TBI or what, that I can't put my words into sentences to give them the proof that they're looking for that moment in order to prove that I'm not giving false statements or what have you about things.
So always
yeah.
it's fundamental to logic that there are always premises to any logical argument where the premises are assumed to be true or false. They're assumed. There's really nothing in logic that you can say unless you accept the premises the way they're laid out as true or false. Then logic can tell you what the proposition that's being made is true or false. But if you don't accept the premises, then you can't do the proof. And the problem is, because we all have different memories, we can't communicate all the premises that our brains are bringing to an understanding. We hope that we get enough information across a common memory that it can be understood in a way it's the truth, and we can understand the way something can be a lie. Fiction is a great example of that. Fiction is not good fiction if you think it's all just a lie. There has to be some truth to it for it to be good fiction. But it's not the referential story that's being told. It's the sort of the meaning underlying the story that turns out to be the truth, usually. One of the things that I always wondered about was, why do humans like fiction? I'm a scientist. I used to read a lot of fiction, but I don't read fiction anymore because I can't stand it. Not that I didn't say that right. I don't have time for it. I like to believe that things that I'm studying were true. And being a scientist, I live for truth. But it's always flawed because I can never communicate the full logic behind. Nobody can do that. So you're not alone by any stretch of the imagination, at least in this interpretation. Juror 4?
Hi, Baba. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I was hoping, I put a whole bunch of I don't knows in my verdicts, hoping you would simplify what you were trying to say here. And I'm still confused, to be honest. Yeah, but what I want to add is human beings don't think like that. I don't know, I'm just struggling with the concept is past the second sentence, human beings don't really think in a negative way.
So that was a multiple negative. So I was trying to do a proof, but there are positive versions of this that but yeah, there was a double negative there. When you're negating something, when you're negating a negation, it goes on, you pretty soon you can't follow it. And it may be that so I can follow the 3 that I gave, but when I put a 4th one on it, I stop following. My brain stops following. I can't get the meanings to work right. But if I study it a little bit, I can get the meanings to work right. So the thing to do is, you got to realize that it's permitted that the target sentence changes how you understood the words by the predication context in which it's put. And that can be referential. Like, for example, it can have to do with who said it. Just to be clear. Okay.
Just on that, okay, I'm still not convinced. But if I look at your accusation, I could very well change the sentence, and I don't know if it will change the meaning. Every sentence cannot be a lie nor the truth. Is that
cannot be a lie or truth?
Nor the truth.
Every sentence can be a
that
lie
means the same thing.
and not the truth. But that's within so that can be true in some sense. And that's exactly what's being argued here. So
but I'm not convinced.
This is really weird property. Is in neural systems, truth is always malleable. And we know this out of logic. We know this because we can't do logic without. I'm sorry.
He froze up earlier.
Yes. Yeah.
Did I freeze?
I'm still here.
Has everybody lost Robert?
Yeah. We just lost Robert.
No.
Did you lose me? Can you hear me?
It is not true that we lost Robert.
It's both true and not
It is
true.
not true that we lost Robert.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry. That is a great example, because what I said was, most commonly it's the referential meaning of the sentence that changes when it changes its truth value or lie value, because that's the easiest way to do it and to get it to make sense. I can say something that, I don't know, this is a candle, and then you can say, I'm lying, it's not a candle. And I can say, In the book I'm reading, this is a candle.
Then
Now
you're
you don't
changing
know.
the whole sentence.
I know. This is a candle is the sentence.
So that's why you don't like fiction, I see.
I don't like fiction because I live for truth. I've been a scientist all my life, and I live for truth, and I find it's a much more enjoyable place to be than reading fiction because fiction is fiction.
As I posted in the chat, it's a well-known effect. Men over 50 don't read fiction. It's well known.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know.
Yeah, it's an effect, and all publishers know this.
Okay. Wow. I didn't know. Okay. I'd heard something. Actually, I remember I had heard something like that. Anyway, so juror 5.
Yes, every time I think I grasp the concept, then somebody puts something in chat or you say something that makes it a little different. But here's what I'm going to cling to. It's just easier for me to think that some sentences can be both true and false. But you're saying every sentence now?
Every sentence, yeah. Every sentence. And by sentence, so somebody just said conflating concept became a dependent clause. That's not correct. If I look at the propositions that are in the surface structure propositions, I'll always get a hierarchy. And at different levels in that hierarchy, I can identify clauses, which are sentences, can be standalone sentences. That's pretty much the definition of a clause. When it's a dependent clause, it is being predicated. And it is. Okay.
It doesn't have to be predicated on paper. As long as you predicate it in your mind, or it's okay to predicate it on paper.
Yeah, you have to understand in terms of Chomsky's surface structure, but every sentence you can diagram to the grammar diagram of a sentence, and they're always hierarchies.
Got it.
Yeah, and that diagram shows you where the sentences are in a complex sentence, for example, or
But juror 6 has a lot to say, so I'm going to pass it on.
I'll say juror 6.
Yeah, it's me. Okay. A sentence. All right. A sentence is a complete thought marked by a subject-verb pairing, and in English starts with a capital letter and with a punctuation mark. That's a sentence. When you add new words to a sentence, you don't have the original sentence. Full stop. That's it. You've changed the sentence. Full stop. So that's it. You're not doing anything profound here. You're just making a new sentence.
In fact, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that what's profound here is that you can do that.
But you can't. That's the point.
No, you can do exactly what you just said.
It's just adding the
creating a new
context,
sentence. It's not the original sentence.
Yeah. The words were the same. The words were the same.
But the words aren't the same because you're adding new words to the sentence.
No, you're saying that the meaning isn't the same, which is what I said.
No, I'm saying that the sentence is not the same. So, for example,
my definition of a sentence is a surface structure sentence, which is the words.
It's the typical grammatical definition of sentence, yes. Now, and even in the logical definition of sentence, it's an expression that has a truth value, and that's fine. But here's the deal. Let's say that the sentence, the earth is flat.
Yep.
The earth is flat. That is a sentence. If I add the words, the earth is flat at Jamaica, that is a new sentence.
That is changing the predication on the subject. And so that is a new sentence.
But if I add the words, it is not true that the earth is flat. That is also a new sentence. That's it. That's 100% it.
Yeah, but Brian, aren't we talking about
both the cases that you just gave? You've changed the predication on the original sentence.
Yeah.
No, I changed the original sentence. That's the point.
Changed the predication on it.
It doesn't matter. You can use whatever you can phrase.
Yes, it is, because we haven't defined predications as being sentences. They're defined differently in the brain, aren't they?
So I gave you I did do a whole article on this, how the brain computes, where I actually showed you the surface structure hierarchy and showed you where all the predications were.
But that's irrelevant. That's absolutely irrelevant for the context of a sentence. A sentence is a specific unit. And when you change the sentence, when you change the unit, it's a new sentence. That's the whole point right here. It doesn't
Well,
matter take predication or
so-
not. It's a new
So I'll
sentence.
also say that in another way. I say that any sentence can describe an event or a whole story. The point of that is that I can name a movie. I'm actually telling a whole story. I'm naming the whole movie. But it does depend on what you're defining as a sentence. And I'm defining a sentence as a predication structure, which is subjects and predicates. In a well-formed sentence, there is an express subject and predicate, one that's the main one.
Yes.
Underneath it, it has other predications, and those predications can modify the meaning of the original sentence, but you're also changing the words.
If
of
you
that
add those
sentence.
I mean,
predications,
why can't we just change the word sentence in number one to predication, then problem solved?
but if you add the predications, you're correct. But there are no implied predications in every sentence because that's what your assumption requires.
They're not, yes, there are. If you can parse it, there are.
I am a horse.
No,
There are no assumed predications. There are no implied predications in that sentence.
yes, there are.
Horse. What are the assumed predications?
So I am a horse.
Yes, that's the sentence.
Go slow. Okay. I is the subject. Am a horse is the predicate. Below that is am a horse. Okay. And the horse is. Okay. That's a predicate below it. And then below that is I am a horse, which is saying that this is not a specific horse. So the predication on it is it's not specific. And so there's, I think I was counting four predications there. And it's Chomsky surface structure analysis, which works. His deep structure analysis never worked, but the surface structure always works.
What you're calling predications and what Chomsky might refer to as predications is just cultural context. That has nothing to do with linguistics. It's just cultural context.
It has everything to do with structural linguistics.
But the point remains. I am a horse. That sentence can be true or it can be false, or you can change it to be true or false. But it can't be at the same time Schrodinger and Heisenberg sentence.
Oh, that's what I've said. I've said that whenever you
have to make
change
a new
its
sentence,
predication, you predicate it with another context,
which makes
you're invariably changing its meaning,
which makes a new sentence,
which is a different. It's the same words, which I define as a sentence, but the words have different meanings.
When you add new words, yes, they do have different meanings.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So we're agreeing.
Made a new sentence.
We're agreeing.
All right, this is fun. Go for it.
Okay. Juror 7.
Okay. Yeah. So I see this as proof that the truth and lies depend on context and interpretation. Any statement can be shifted between the two depending on how it's understood. Although it is not entirely true, I would say, on the basis that it doesn't account for sentences that are tautological in nature. If I would say the gunman is armed and dangerous, or sentences that are factually true by nature. If I said 3 + 3 = 6, such sentences are not subject to reinterpretation as lies. That's what I think.
That's not true. So I can take this 3 + 3 is, what did you say? 3 + 3 is not 9, or I forgot what you said.
No, 3 + 3 is 6.
3 and 3 is 6. Yeah, I can
6.
say 3. I can usually do this. I can more easily do this with 2, but 3 jelly beans plus 3 jelly beans is not 6 same colored jelly beans.
But that's not the sentence I gave.
But I would, by the way, follow that what I just said with 3 + 3 is not 6 in that case. And I
But
use
when
those words.
to tautological sentences,
I
the
gave you a
gunman is armed
context. I made that not true. You can, But the key here is that you're changing both the referential meaning of the words and the semantics of the words themselves. And the amazing thing is the human brain can do that. That is unbelievable. Because I can tell you languages, most programming languages,
Can you
for
do
example,
the first sentence I gave so
where
I
you
can
can't do that. I'm sorry?
Can you do it with the first sentence I gave so I can be convinced? Like the gunman.
Yeah, that's
is
just a
armed-
reference. I forgot what you said.
Gunman is unarmed and dangerous.
I'm sorry, you said the gunman?
Is armed and dangerous.
Oh, but he's 6 years old. Or make him 1. If you have to, make him 6 months old.
Okay.
Or make him an old man.
But he's still armed and dangerous, regardless.
Well, he was, yeah, it's sort of. I can make that also. I can see that as armed and dangerous as a joke.
How?
Yeah.
He's a gunman.
By imagining him in being a 2-year-old and he's carrying a pop gun, not a real gun.
Okay.
He's armed and he's dangerous to his sister. What I'm arguing is that the proof really depends or notes that the meaning of the words change.
When you
So
add more words.
Yeah, when you're predicating something that is a sentence to change its truth value, then you're changing the meaning of the words.
Yeah.
But you can always do it. And it's the always do it that's super special. That is a wildly unbelievable property. And I really do believe that Chomsky was the first one who fully appreciated this in his 1957 book.
Hello, everyone. I found myself having a hard time trying to grasp this topic as a whole. But after Juror 6, then I understood it more when Mr. Brian started explaining about changing the construct of the sentence. And the example you previously made about the gunman being dangerous, when you said you adding certain information, when you said the person with a gun can be a 6-month-old, that is not the original construct of the sentence, because you could not have known that the person holding the gun is a 6-month-old. So there's just giving less information. It doesn't make it false. Or, yeah, it doesn't make it. If I'm trying to grasp it, but I'm still not understanding it fully. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just going to reiterate and say that the more y'all keep going, this baby's going to be armed and dangerous before it even comes out of the womb.
Folks, this is the end of the live recording due to a connectivity failure with the internet. But the Truth Court trial has already done its job.